Coming up, Jokic gets sick. The Nuggets try and step up, but come up short. And why Denver has to get stronger. This is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day, being with us Monday through Friday, being an everydayer, hanging out with us. Whether you're on YouTube at youtube.com/LockedOnNuggets or joining us on the podcast version, which we do appreciate. We love our podcast listeners. Got so many folks that let me know they listen to the show on their way to work. Shout out to you for going to work, getting up, doing the work, doing the stuff every day, getting through life. Hope your 2025 has started off great. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I host two Substacks, one at Hardwood Paroxysm, which you can find by Googling it, and the other one at thedenverdig.com, which covers the Denver Nuggets. I'm also a frequent writer, as I will be again tonight, for the Locked On Nuggets newsletter. On Tuesday's edition, I wrote on how Denver and Boston have kind of been star-crossed, where like the timing, they probably should have met at least like twice to three times in the finals, and they've just never quite gotten it right to be able to kind of meet up, which is not uncommon. LeBron and Kobe kind of had the same thing going on, not to compare necessarily the two teams, but like, you know, they probably should have met more often, and you can read more about that on the Locked On Nuggets daily newsletter on tomorrow's version. If you sign up, you'll get 10 things about the Nuggets lost to the Boston Celtics. That's what we'll be talking about tonight in pretty short order. This will be a shorter show. It's be a full show, but a shorter show. I'm with you solo because it was a late game. Ryan's gassed. Everyone's tired. Jokic didn't play. So I'm rolling solo with you tonight. No jinx. No jinx for you on Wednesday. Do want to let you know, programming note, on Thursday at 12:30 Mountain Time, we're doing World's Finest. It's me and Adam Mares. And so Adam and I are linking back up, and we're going to talk all things Nugget and have a big get-together to talk about where the team is at, where the team is going, what we think of the team and the trades and all that kind of stuff on down the line. So make sure to check that out on Thursday. Glad you guys are with us. Liz says, Matt, still salty you didn't mention Jokic versus Wemby on the other show, but I still respect what you got to say. I did talk about that actually on Locked On Nuggets or Locked On NBA. I talked about it. I did and I was asked about which was the most impressive thing I saw this weekend. And I said Jokic Wemby because it was absolutely insane. It was so incredible. It was really good. Daniel Miller gets it started. Are we still too scared to talk about Malone's future? Daniel, they just lost without Jokic. Like, they lost without Jokic by 12 to the Boston Celtics. Like, what are we like now? Like, now is when you do this? Like, now you're like, see, gotta fire Malone. Lost to the Celtics by 12 without Joker and Aaron Gordon. What are we doing? What are we doing? What is this? Oh, this is a really good comment by Rational Calvin Booth. Murray's not the reason they lost. He did enough, but when is this guy going to be the reason they won? That's a good question. That's a really good framing of it. Jamal Murray is not the reason that the Denver Nuggets lost to the Boston Celtics. The reason the Denver Nuggets lost to the Boston Celtics, as you can see on the bar here on Locked On Nuggets, I've written it in real big detail in our rundown, and it's Jokic didn't play. And that's it. That's all you need to know about this game. Because ultimately, once Joker's out, this team is not designed to win. Like, this team wasn't designed to win without him. And that's one of the fundamental problems I think that they've got to probably try and address. Not that they need to plan for a future without Joker, or that your team should operate independent of Joker, because that's madness. You want to build your team around the best player on earth, who's the best playmaker on earth, who's the best floor raiser on earth, who's the best synergy guy on earth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You want to do that. But you also have to be able to be like, no. Like, they're pretty stacked anyway. So, like, they're okay, and not go into it being like, well, this is a loss. And honestly, it was not that bad. It was a really competitive game. They were tied at half. They were hanging in this game, but ultimately they didn't have enough. They were within range. They had a shot in this game, and the defense couldn't hold it together. Jamal blamed himself after the game for not making enough shots. Jamal was 8-17 from the field. He was 1 of 5 from 3, but that's okay. Like, that's a variance thing. Okay. He got 5 3-pointers. That's actually pretty good in his direction. Probably could have used a few more, to be perfectly honest with you, given that it's Boston. But the Nuggets did such a good job defending Boston's 3-pointer. The Nuggets took more threes than Boston tonight. And if you want to say, look, they took more threes than Boston, they lost. So shut up, Matt, about the math. I hear you, except that's why they had a chance to beat Boston without Joker, was that they were able to contain the number of threes that Celtics attempted. If you do that, that's step one in giving you a chance. If you let them shoot threes, you're not going to be able to keep up with them, and you are going to get outpaced. And no matter how well you play, you're going to get outmatched. Denver did the hard work in this game of containing them from the three-point line. And the problem is that they've got the ability and strength, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on, to be able to score on the interior. And that's how they were able to get this win, because the Nuggets ultimately gave up a 124 defensive rating, and that's not going to get it done. It's just not. Like, no matter what, that you got to be better at contesting stuff. You limited the threes, and that gave you a chance, but you gave up a 124, and that wasn't good enough. Especially in the fourth quarter, they kind of fell apart, and a lot of that was turnovers. Jamal mentioned that rebounding was a big problem. It continues to be a really big issue. Kristaps Porzingis had 11 rebounds tonight, 5 offensive. Al Horford had 2 offensive rebounds. Peyton Pritchard had 2 offensive rebounds. Luke Cornett was a positive in this game. He had 1 offensive rebound and was a +5. You can't let these guys, the Boston trots out in their bench lineup as if they're like flaunting how they can get away with anybody. You have to punish them, and the Nuggets could not do that. Your best rebounder in this game was Michael Porter Jr., which he had 10 rebounds, but he was a -16. Look, they're without Aaron Gordon and Yoke. That's a ton of rebounding potential, but they simply weren't good enough, again, because as we'll talk about later, they got a real strength problem. Nuggets star Dario Saric in this game, and Pedro asks, is Dario unplayable? Yep, still unplayable. Now, do I think that he's going to be unplayable until the end of the season? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's possible that he's not going to be unplayable, that he might be playable for certain stretches. Swipe would definitely tell you, yes, that Dario Saric will never be playable on an NBA basketball court ever again. I disagree, but that's okay. You can make up your own mind about it based off of what you've seen. I totally understand if you're like, he can't play, he should never play, they shouldn't have signed him, it's total bust, he should never play basketball on an NBA court again. I totally understand that. That's how bad he's been. I just tend to give veterans a lot more of the benefit of the doubt for being able to figure out things, get healthier, and be able to put things together. I think Saric is not healthy. I think he's been banged up. I think he's been in a tough situation coming in and out. I think thrusting him into the starting lineup was an odd choice. And look, DeAndre Jordan was a +1 in this game in which they lost by 12. Think about that. DeAndre Jordan had an on-off of +13 tonight. What a delightful change for him. What a delightful switcheroo for him. The Nuggets played with a lot of heart in this one. They competed, they battled, they really did give a lot. Russell Westbrook in particular, 9 of 18 from the field, 26 points, 9 boards, 6 assists for Russ, a -10 because, again, kind of ran out of the gas at the end. Christian, kind of a quiet night, 12 points, had some buckets late, but had a real quiet first 3 quarters for them. How about Peyton Watson with 14 points, 5 of 9 from the field, 4 rebounds, gave them really good energy. Julian Strother, really good energy. 19 points on 8 of 15 and 3 of 6 from 3. I liked a lot of what I saw offensively from the kids tonight, from the young guys. The Booth Boys, I believe is what the DNVR calls them. I thought they were really good in terms of the energy that they brought. And there is a certain amount of, well, we'll talk about that on the other side. Up next, we'll talk about why it is the Nuggets were able to hang with the Celtics without Jokic, at least for a little while. And we'll start talking about what it is that this game is actually more illustrative of some problems with the Nuggets roster than you would think. They get a pass for it from me, but there's some stuff we should talk about. We'll do that next here on Locked On Nuggets. I want to take a moment to introduce you to a brand new mobile game that I'm really excited about, the Ultimate College Basketball HC. If you've ever dreamed of being a college basketball head coach, this is your chance to step into those shoes. In Ultimate College Basketball HC, you control every detail of your program, from recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps, handling NIL deals, and managing scholarships. It's all in your hands. When it's time for game time, you get to draw up offensive plays and set your strategy. The way you play won't just affect the current season, it will shape the future of your school's basketball program. It's a game that lets you feel the full weight of what it means to be a head coach and lead your team to glory. Here's a special offer for Locked On NBA listeners. Use promo code LOCKEDONCBB, all caps, Locked On CBB, inside the game store to get a free boost for your program. It's the perfect way to kickstart your coaching career. To download Ultimate College Basketball HC, just visit ultimate-cbb.com. Look it up on the app stores. Ultimate-cbb.com. Ultimate College Basketball HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us here on a Wednesday. Again, reminder that tomorrow on Thursday, we're doing World's Finest with Adam. I don't know what format we're going to post it in. I don't know what the timing is going to be with Swipe and Ryan show. I just know that at some point tomorrow, or on Thursday rather, there will be World's Finest with me and Adam Mares. So you guys can enjoy that. I think it'll probably go up on the DNVR feed, but I don't know. We'll see. We're figuring that out. It's a Tegna thing since they own both of us now, or have ownership stakes in both of us. So once again, go to lockedondaily.com and you can get our daily newsletter. Lots of cool stuff in there. I'll drop some stuff in there as well. Okay. I thought the kids did really well tonight. I thought the young players did really well tonight in terms of the energy that they brought and offensively. I continue to just think that like Julian is making real strides and making an impact and being aggressive. There was one play where Jaylen Brown, I couldn't tell. On the replay, it looked clean from the angle I got it. Everyone else thought he got pulled down by the shoulder and then hit on the arm. And from the replay I got on TNT, because I was at home, because I don't even want to get into why I was at home and missed this game. I'm very mad. But anyway, I was at home. From the replay I got on TNT, it didn't seem like a foul. But again, like I'm open to that just being, hey, if you look at it from a different angle, it looks totally like a foul. I like that energy that they brought in this game. By the way, Zeke Naji played 4 minutes and 60 seconds and was a -8 with no stats. Just, you keep thinking that if you Dario's in the same thing where it's like, if you just wait long enough and then, okay, maybe now, because it's been like a different time. Nope, still not playable. Just really ridiculous. But my bigger thing from this game is this. Tatum was able to get to whatever he wanted. He really took over in that fourth quarter. Tatum was really great in that fourth quarter. Peyton was contesting. It was pretty good defense, but Tatum is so strong. Watson did such a good job of trying to stay with him, but Tatum is very, very strong, and he was able to do a lot of work. Tatum was 1 of 9 from 3-point range tonight, which means, doing my handy dandy math, he was 10 of 14 from 2-point range. He was able to get inside whenever he wanted. The Nuggets in 2023 were so big. They were just bullies. And they bullied everybody with their size. And they still, when they have Jokic and they have Gordon and they have MPJ and that trio in the front court, that's still a really big, big, big lineup. But they no longer play big. And some of that is that they don't have veteran muscle. Because if you look at how Peyton Watson is built in terms of his frame, and if you look at Julian Strawther in terms of how he's built with his frame, those guys still have their college kid, young man bodies. And if you look at NBA players that have been in training programs, building muscle, working in off season, and are 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, and then after that, they're pretty much dust. They're so much bigger and stronger. And you need those guys. And this continues. We're going to keep harping on this because it is very obvious and becomes more obvious as the season comes along. The Nuggets don't need a backup point guard. I can't believe it, but they don't. Jamal, Russ, Jalen, if he's called upon, has been okay lately. That's good enough to get you through. Legitimately, the Denver Nuggets don't need a backup point guard, which I think is stunning given how thin that looked to start the season. They need a backup center. 100%. No question. DeAndre should not be being asked to do what he's doing. Like, he's actually doing really well given what's been asked of DeAndre Jordan here. They should have a better backup big. But the one thing they need more than anything is they just got to get a veteran wing. You got to find somebody with size. You got to find somebody with athleticism. You got to find somebody with the muscle to be able to put a shoulder into Jason Tatum, to close that space, to not get bumped off. So much of it, if you watch younger defenders in the NBA, go watch any young defender that you want, any young player that's not like one of the monsters that are like, some guys are just crazy good defensively right out the gate now. Like Amen Thompson's a monster, right? But there's so many guys that when they're young and they haven't had 2 to 3 years of strength training yet, that when they get hit by that shoulder, watch how far they get knocked off versus how a veteran does. And I'm not even talking about the good veterans. I'm talking about like Tim Hardaway Jr., right? Who's not a good defender, but he's strong because he's been in the league a long time. It's the Mavericks bench players. It's all of these guys on these other teams when they have these types of wings that can actually close space, recover, and take a bump. They can handle that kind of physicality. And Denver's absence of those is really difficult. The shooting would help, right? Like that's the counter here is if you get somebody who can't shoot, then you don't really do anything because you're just adding another Aaron Gordon effectively. You're just adding wing Aaron Gordon. Again, Aaron's shooting very well from three in the minutes that he played this season before he got hurt. You need an actual 3-and-D wing. You have to replace KCP. I don't think they made the wrong decision in promoting Christian, in letting KCP walk, in maintaining flexibility under the second apron. Would they have been better off if they just kept KCP? Yeah, but that would have caused other problems down the line. The issue is not that they let KCP walk. The issue is that Denver let KCP walk and then did not replace him. Russ is effectively Reggie Jackson and Bruce Brown kind of like smushed together. That's kind of like what he is. He's not as good at some things. He's not as good a shooter as Bruce. He's not as good, honestly, as like a ball handler as Reggie. Sometimes he plays out of control. He had a lot of turnovers tonight. But the energy, effort, physicality, defense, plus playmaking offensively, and ability to score, he really is kind of Reggie and Bruce Brown smushed together into what's ultimately a better kind of combo. Like, I think I'd rather have, that's tough. I don't know if I'd rather have Russell Westbrook than Bruce, given how well Bruce fit here, but it's close. But they did not replace KCP. Peyton Watson is not a KCP replacement. Julian Strother is not a KCP replacement. You have to go get a vet. Like, they have to go find one. There are options that are out there, but it does require waiving one of the guaranteed deals. They don't have a roster spot right now. They didn't even leave themselves that option. That to me, I kind of keep going back to, and they have ways to do it. They have a lot of ways that they can make a roster space. But like, think about this, is that the Nuggets really did come into camp at like 50, like, nope, not even leaving in a possibility for us to add somebody. This is the group. We're going to evaluate this group. Okay. You're almost 40 games in. And what you've learned is, hey, it's not a flaming disaster. They didn't start out 5-12 and Malone didn't get fired. They have quality wins versus the Thunder, the Mavericks, a couple of other teams. They have good wins this season. They have bad losses, but they have good wins as well. They have proven that they can survive with Aaron Gordon out. They have proven they can survive with Jamal Murray out. They've proven they can survive with Jamal Murray having a subpar start to the season. But what they have also proven is that they need one more wing. You need one more physical defender, because I will tell you this, Boston got caught tonight because that's what happens when teams are without their best player. They have never scouted Denver without Jokic. They don't know what it looks like. And if you're like, well, Jokic doesn't play 48 minutes every game. No, but he also plays the majority of his minutes without 4 of the starters. So you don't know what 4 starters and Dario Saric looks like, or DeAndre Jordan. You don't know what that looks like. You just don't know. And they play an entirely different way because they're not going to the actions like dribble handoffs, post-ups, pinch post. They're not going to those same actions. DeAndre runs some DHO. They're just an entirely different kind of made up team without Joker because they were never intended to be. That's hard to scout. You combine that with a letdown effect of them being on the end of a road trip in Denver in altitude. And I'm not surprised that Denver hung around in this game. Honestly, it's kind of a strong mark in Boston's favor they didn't get caught. It's a letdown game after losing to OKC in pretty brutal and humiliating fashion in a very big letdown spot with Joker out. And they didn't get caught. They closed the game like professional good teams do. They're a championship team. That's what you do. And Denver had a lot of situations where they did this last year. But I'll also say this. If Denver has one more wing with some strength, they win this game. That's what was missing. That's really what you needed. You just needed one more wing. You needed one more option. And not having it, I think, is an issue. They got to address that. It's time. It's time. They tried to make various things work. It's time. Giving up on one young player does not mean that you're forsaking the entire plan. It just means that you're doing what's necessary to give Joker a chance. People are saying that wing is Aaron Gordon. No. No, I'm not talking about Aaron Gordon, okay? I'm not talking about Aaron because Aaron is most likely guard. Like, they probably go double big, right? Like, they go bigger then. And you can put Gordon on Tatum, maybe, but I'd also say you still need one more. You just do. You need one more wing. It's not just Gordon. It's one more. On the other side, we'll wrap up this conversation. We'll talk about why this was ultimately still like an impressive, honestly, a really impressive game. What that means and whether you buy it or not. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Nuggets. Okay, so my wife's going back to school here in a few weeks. The kids go back to school tomorrow. So on Monday, my wife decides to go see an Avs game. She's not going to make me go because she knows I'm going to Nuggets games like every other night. So she takes my son and she goes to Denver. Before that, in the afternoon, she popped on Game Time and she found lower bowl seats, you guys, for a steal. They were such great seats. And she got them on Game Time and she used code LOCKEDONNBA. And she had an awesome time. She had she budgeted a trip like she budgets everything. And that meant that she had money left over. So my kid got to get some merchandise, which he loves. Big merch fan, my kiddo. So, and he and his mom had a great night watching hockey. And he got to watch her yell curse words that she never says very loudly at the officials because she is that fan. Absolutely 100%. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. The Avs won 3-1, by the way. Shout out Locked On Avalanche. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Oh, it's game time. Back here on Locked On NBA. Thanks for joining. Locked On NBA. Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us. On a Wednesday, Hurricane says, your son likes sports now? I thought he didn't. No, he just likes hockey. Like, he likes going to hockey games. He also likes my favorite football team because he doesn't know anything but them winning. The poor, sweet, innocent child. All right. Holiday is probably the only option they can afford, says Aaron Esquivel. I don't think they can trade for a big wing defender. Okay, so probably not. But also, I will tell you, big wing defenders do tend to get on the market, and there also are a number of them lying around. Floating around. I also think like going to the G League is worth an option. Like, go find a guy you really like. Go take a shot. Like, you know, they took a shot on Torrey Craig years ago, and yes, that was in the rebuilding phase. But that's the kind of guy I'm talking about, where it's like, go find a guy that can play. You're such this front office has done such a great job drafting. Go find a guy in the G League. Go find a guy. I just think it's possible for them to go get the pieces that they need. Cedric says, do you think Derek White would fit with us, or who could we get if we have the money? I think, look, I would not be surprised if Derek White down the line was a Denver Nugget. I would not be surprised at that, but I think it's going to be a while. So I think that's probably part of that equation. I do want to make sure that I'm clear on this. Denver could have rolled over here because without Joker, it's just very easy. The way that they've built the roster, it's very easy for them to roll over. And this team treated it like a professional team should. I know that that's annoying because, in part, there are no moral victories in football. There are no good losses in professional football. There's no bad wins in professional football because you only get 17 of them, and all that matters is getting through it because it is so tough, it is so narrow, and the way the game is designed. The NBA is not like that. With 82 games, you're going to have a lot of good wins and a lot of bad wins, and you're going to have a lot of good losses and a lot of bad losses. This was not a bad loss. It's close to not being a good one with it being 12. But I think without Joker, being competitive for 3 quarters and running out of gas is about as much as you can expect in a loss without getting into like unreasonable territory. Would have been better to lose on like a buzzer beater for sure. But Denver legitimately had chances in this game where if a couple of shots had gone down, it would have been their opportunity. I think that's probably what Jamal's frustrated about, is like just a few more shots had gone down. Like Porter going 2 of 7 tonight, but it's also like, look, Denver was 14 of 36, 39% from three. They weren't bad from 3-point range. They just weren't good enough to beat Boston. Boston was 34%. They're going to feel like we'll just hit more threes next time and it'll be fine. But I thought the game plan was really good by Malone. I thought Malone did a really good job of game planning a defensive scheme here. And starting Saric was honestly part of that. It's just like Saric's inability to really move was kind of the issue that continues to plague him. He did have 4 assists, by the way, in 16 minutes, which is kind of surprising. But again, DeAndre keeps, really giving them pretty good minutes. I do just kind of think that the fact that Denver was close enough is an optimistic view. It gives reason for a little bit of confidence that this Denver team isn't lost. If they had gotten blown out without Jokic, which I think is what you would expect, no Jokic versus the Boston Celtics, that screams a blowout. And the fact that this was competitive does indicate something about the way that the roster is constructed. It does indicate to me a lot about Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther. Like I've been defensive of Julian to some degree because something about Julian needs to be defensive. Like Julian's defense is truly wretched and truly awful. And I hate the fact that he's being put in positions where you can leverage that against him so easily. They have no ability to cover for him. And that's on him to get better. And he knows that and he's trying. But also, Julian Strawther is one of the few guys on the team who's just like, yes, give me the ball and I will create some offense. Everybody else is just like, it's so painful trying to watch them generate offense if Jokic isn't on the floor. And they really they were able to put together enough to be able to compete. But ultimately, the lesson in this game, Jokic didn't play. The Denver Nuggets are not built to win without Nikola Jokic. That's evident from, okay, how can I put this? The Bucks are not built to win without Giannis, but the structure is still the same. Like, oh, okay, Dame's going to run high pick and roll with Brook Lopez, and Chris Middleton's going to spot up on the wing while they have other shooters around them. Okay, that makes sense. Like, we have a supporting structure here. The Thunder are still going to run J-Dub as primary point guard initiator, and they're still going to drive kick. Like, they're going to play the same if Shea is out or not. OKC's not changing how they play. They just won't be as good at what they do. I'm trying to think of the other MVP candidates. The Spurs. The Spurs are not necessarily built around Victor Wembanyama because he doesn't have a strong enough offensive go-to set of moves for them to really build around him. They have sequences and actions they get, but they're not all entirely built around Wemby yet. That will be in time. Okay? The Mavericks are the closest kind of comparison, but the Mavericks have actually moved away from that, where it's more like, okay, we have this Kyrie offense, and then we have this Luka offense, and they're going to Venn diagram some of the time. Denver's not built that way because Jokic is so good. You want to optimize absolutely everything about him, and that's what this roster was constructed to do, was to be built around Joker, not just from a salary standpoint, though it's extremely top heavy, which I always say. But also, it's from a skill set perspective. They don't have a lot of guys who are built to be playmakers because you have the best playmaker on the planet. They're not stacked with playmakers. And yeah, there are roster deficiencies, but ultimately this team was designed to play one way, and that's around Jokic. And if you take that out, they're winging it. But I think it's particularly interesting that the Nuggets are so bad, so wretched, so terrible, so awful, so unforgivably bad in the minutes Joker doesn't play when he plays. And on a night where he doesn't play, this happens. They lost to the Pelicans and the Grizzlies earlier this season, so that's the counter argument. But I think it's interesting to look at this and just be like, it's probably just like basketball's random. It's one game. It's January. But I think it's interesting. Not to suggest anything other than they got to figure out a way to balance out how they play so that guys can function and survive without Joker and thrive with him. And they still haven't figured that out yet. Okay. That's going to do it for Locked On Nuggets for a Wednesday. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back Wednesday night because they play the Clippers again. And we'll do a post-game show after that game. So we'll be back here on tomorrow night. Thursday, again, 12:30, we're doing World's Finest with me and Adam. And then I think you'll have the Ryan and Swipe a show, and then Swipe and Gripe on Friday, and then a post-game show on Friday after the Nets game as well. Hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you guys again next time here on Locked On Nuggets.